I want to go back to one of the topics that we covered when we started discussing descriptive statistics. I want to go right to what to do with qualitative data. I don't mean the multiple choice questions where your answers can be categorical data. I mean open-ended questions where the response is a phrase or a sentence. What do you do when you have that kind of data? When we were together, we briefly reviewed a method for qualitative data analysis where your goal, as with your goal in any kind of analysis, is to make the data meaningful. When it's qualitative data, it takes a little more time to hear what the data is saying. So the process that we'll go through is 3 steps: notice, collect, think. Where the first thing you do is you produce a record of the things you have noticed. This means read and reread and read it again and keep reading those open-ended responses that you've been given. And eventually, you'll start to notice repeating words or repeating phrases. Write those things down. As you're writing these things down, how many times do you notice them? How many times did this word show up? How many times did this other word show up? After you end up with this list of things that you've noticed and you count how many times that you notice them, start to look for patterns in relationships. Start to reorganize the data. Put it in a graph. Is it speaking to you? What does it say? I gave you a data set on some interviews that took place at restaurants. And one of the questions was, how do you increase efficiency in your restaurant? So you have a long list of responses. I think there are about 30. Read them over and over and over and over and over. And eventually, you'll notice some repetition in the responses. One of the things that jump out is organization. Be more organized. But it jumped out in 2 ways: organize the facility and organize the tasks. Something else that jumped out was don't produce too much, be consistent in terms of your processes, keep your employees motivated. So let's just say these were the only 5 things that we noticed in this set of data, which is okay. The next thing we do is go and record, well, how many times did someone mention organize the facility? Maybe that happened 5 times. How many times did we see organization of tasks? Maybe that was also 5 times. How many times did we see don't produce too much? So eventually, you'll end up with a representation of the data that you can then put into a bar chart or a pie chart. So you can describe it using the techniques we've already talked about. But this is one of the ways you can begin to digest some of your open-ended responses.